first started acting as a federal criminal defense lawyer for these hackers and stuff like that, before I had this, I had the naive, what I call the naive view of the government and all this kind of stuff. But then when I actively interact with it, there's like this moment of awakening, and then I go back and I look at like what some of the people who wrote the Bill of Rights, what they were saying, what they were concerned with, and I see it's the exact same thing, right? It's the authoritarian drive in certain factions of the tribe will always be there, right? Just like there's always going to be the people fighting for the the privacy interests. And I do think that, and I do think that they're always seeking control. Like I see it. I mean, that's what we're fighting. Mike and I are fighting with, so to speak, on the front lines. On one front line, there is their main form of attack of our interests from our tribe, right? Which is their prosecutors and the criminal justice system, which is completely out of control. And as people are like, "Oh, Trump's weaponizing," and I'm like, "Really? You're new to this party, huh?" Because every time I see the administration change, I see a DOJ's prosecutorial priorities change, and you see this as one thing that's a singularity to one particular political party. I'm like, no, man, it's a feature, it's not a bug, and you're only noticing it because it's been turned on you. Mm-hmm. And I think the answer is it shouldn't be turned on anybody. Yeah. Period. Whatever your political beliefs are.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Mike, did you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, we don't only need financial privacy to protect ourselves from federal government. It's really important for the capitalist system to have privacy as a feature. If you're trying to make a deal with somebody and they can look up to see how much money you have in your account or how much Bitcoin you can have in your wallet, that just totally destroys all of your negotiating power, right? And without effective negotiation in private deals, capitalism as we know it can't move forward. And having everything open like that and being able to, see how much money a particular entity has is going to jeopardize deals all over the place if people aren't properly securing their financial interests and financial privacy.
I like that argument, and I pick it up that privacy is actually a necessity for capitalism.
Yeah.
Because if your information isn't private, you lose all of your deal leverage, right? So it's a transactional question as well. I like that. Privacy is necessary to the functionality of capitalism. Suck on that. Elizabeth Warren.
I love it. Yeah, I love that. In speaking of just the free market and such, what we've mentioned the Constitution, the Bill of Rights a few times, and that's something close to my heart as well. And I always liken just in a macro sense what kind of explaining to people just the essence of Bitcoin and kind of some of the things it does for the average person. Of hey, Bitcoin or the Bill of Rights and the Constitution gave a lot of these freedoms or self-evident truths to the people inside the United States, or maybe just in the walls of the United States. But Bitcoin gives property rights to people globally, right? Anyone that can download and get some Bitcoin or work and earn in Bitcoin. Now you have the Bitcoin white paper at work for you, the Bill of Rights, in essence, the Constitution for you globally. I would love one of you guys to just touch on just some of that, like some of the interplay between Bitcoin itself and the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, privacy, some of these things. Because again, I think this is something that's very important that gets very little talk time anywhere, even in the Bitcoin spaces.
So one of the things I like about Bitcoin is that it's accessible to everybody. It doesn't discriminate, just like you say. You can download the blockchain, have it on your computer, and it gives a transactional freedom that you don't have with fiat and these banks with all these bank fees. And I think that's why you see crypto being used, and Bitcoin. Sorry, I use the word crypto on a Bitcoin podcast. Why you see it being used in I don't know if underfunded is the right word for parts of the world like Africa and developing countries, or maybe places that don't have a stable political economic regime. What you have with the blockchain is stability, right? And reliability, and something that at least so far historically has just gone up in value, even though there's all sorts of spikes along the way.
And it's secure. It's been in the past, secure. It's been very expensive for people to access the same level of security that exists on the Bitcoin blockchain. And now just by participating in it, you can tap into that security in a way that individuals have never been able to do so in the past.
And that's different than like when the Fed prints money or whatever it does, moves over some, a period on a ledger and a computer, right? It gives that money to the banks, right? Doesn't give that money directly to you, right? Whereas anybody can go and mine Bitcoin, or participate in that. It's just, it's such a revolution in finance. I see why it freaked out the established order, because particularly the banking order. I mean, for me, like one of the first things I honestly started using it is it was the easiest way to transfer money across borders without the stupid SWIFT system from the 1970s or ACH, which took forever. I had a client who we got their conviction vacated, so I had to get him his like 50 grand, from his bond, refund it to him. And I was trying to do it through my bank. My bank's like, that's gonna take 2 weeks. I was like, dude, you take Bitcoin? He's like, yeah. I was like, bub, right? Like it just, I mean, it's another reason Bitcoin's good for capitalism is it increases transaction efficiency on a huge scale, but the banks then can't make the money on the float, on the overnight. Like one of the reasons that they hold your money is so while they're holding it, right, they can trade it, right, and they lend it out. The banks don't get any of the float on your Bitcoin, so of course they're against it. I got a little away from the Bill of Rights, but whatever.
No. I mean, unless you have something to add to that, Mike. I mean, that's something that. Where do you see the just even the future of banks and some of these legacy institutions just in general as Bitcoin moves forward? Do you think? I know Hal Finney obviously wrote about Bitcoin banking and things like that. And again, we kind of talk about these old world, new world, and trying to marry these two together. And it feels like round hole, square peg at times. Like, what do you guys see in terms of again, it could be the governmental entities, it could be the IRSs and SECs, could be the banking system. Like, how do you think things are going to change just from what you guys get to see, which is so different from just the average person and what they're seeing when they're using Bitcoin or hodling, and how do you see things playing out in those terms?
I mean, we see this going on in all areas of technology when it interacts with law. The legal world and the courts are constantly trying to take precedents and statutes that were justified under past situations and applying them to the world of technology. And sometimes, like you said, it's just like trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. It doesn't fit. And then they try to come up with new interpretations of it in this new technological environment. That's one of the things that we ran into in Roman's case when it came to venue. Right, like Tor explained earlier, if the government can access your website and then hail you into court in whatever jurisdiction they want, that presents a threat to anyone around the world who runs a website. They're going to have to register with DC local money transmission regulations that they probably have never heard of, with the risk of IRS agents sitting in DC tapping into the website and then holding you accountable for a statute in a jurisdiction that you've never done business in.
And that was one of the things that Roman got
of
charged with, was the violation of the DC municipal money laundering statute, right?
Yeah,
like no money
the fourth
transmission
count.
statute. Yeah, and he'd never
Yeah.
set foot in DC. Sorry, Michael. Could you?
Yeah, but we see this happen, and not just in venue, but all kinds of different legal doctrines as they're applied to technology, because computer law is the focus of our practice, right? So it doesn't always fit, and we're trying to carve a new path and come up with new justifications and interpretations for existing statutes. And the government, on the other hand, is trying to do the exact opposite. And sometimes we win, sometimes they win, but the legal framework that guides how people should be conducting their activities in this realm it's changing fast, and we're at the front lines of dealing with that and trying to re-identify how to go forward.
Yeah, it's changing so fast. I'm hesitant to predict anything, and I'm also remembering that guy who said, remember when the Soviet Union fell? He said, "It's the end of history," right? Oh yeah, how'd that work out for you, bro? Fukuyama, like, okay, he's never gonna live that one down. He can write as many books and essays as he wants. Yeah, right. So I don't know. Like, I know that these banks or some kind of, at the moment, as long as you have nation states that are protecting their currency, and you want to buy something in those nation states, you're going to have to convert your Bitcoin through an exchange. And I think that'll be the regulatory choke point will be the exchanges and cashing your money out, but I don't know what's going to happen to banks now that I think it's a technology that renders them largely obsolete.
The courts don't fully understand Bitcoin. Early on in Roman's case, we were asked by the judge, hey, can't we just subpoena the administrator of the blockchain and get the records of this and sort this all out? And we just started laughing. For the person in charge of a federal cryptocurrency criminal trial to be asked if we can subpoena the administration of the blockchain.
He just asked if there was an administrator to the blockchain.
It shows a fundamental misunderstanding.
Where the fuck is Craig, right? Yeah.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. I'll see you in there.